Okay, so hopefully you already watched the first video about how to solve by taking a square root. So that's option one. Option two that we are adding today is how to solve a quadratic by finding what we call its roots or zeros. Okay, so we have a couple of words that we can use for this. Roots is one of them. Another word that we see is zeros. And I always laugh about this with my students. Whether you spell it the British way or the English way, right? There can be any in there or there cannot. Okay, but roots and zeros are the same thing that we would talk about as finding solutions. Okay, so the same kind of solution. It's the same thing as finding roots and zeros. It would also be the same thing as finding x-intercepts. And this is a big piece. So when we know that roots and zeros are the same thing as finding x-intercepts, we can then solve quadratics by graphing. So when we are solving quadratics by graphing, at this point, we don't know to solve by graphing. So we are going to have to take advantage of a graphing tool. So you will notice on the Canvas homepage for today's date, I have linked a graphing calculator. It's the Desmos graphing calculator, so you probably saw this last year, especially in elearn. But it's also linked inside any of the questions that you would need to be able to graph. Okay, so let's say that we want to solve something like x squared minus 9 equals 0. So we said we could solve x squared minus 9 equals 0 by solving and taking a square root, which is great. It works by solving by taking a square root. The problem is that not every problem will be able to solve by taking a square root. And so what we need to realize is that an x-intercept, right, when we are on the x-axis, so if we have a point on the x-axis, maybe over here, if you look on the graph, you see where it's getting darker. I'm kind of moving the graph a little bit there, but okay, a y value on an x-intercept is always 0. So if we look at this right here, okay, whenever something is 0, we can think about this as being the y value, because our y value is equal to 0, which means we could really then write this as x squared minus 9 is y. Now, if I flip-flop that order, y equals x squared minus 9, this looks like an equation that we can graph, right? It looks like a function. It's just that we have a squared in it, and that's not something we've talked about graphing before. Okay, so okay, so let's say we now have that as an equation. So we have y equals x squared minus 9, and we want to solve this by graphing. So what we'll do is we'll go to our graphing tool, and we will type this equation in exactly like we see it. Okay, so we will type in y equals x squared, so we need x squared minus 9. Okay, so I typed in this equation over here exactly like what my equation was. And so now I have this graph over here where what I'm looking for is the x-intercepts. So I am looking to see where this crosses the x-axis. So if I look at where this crosses the x-axis, I'm going to add a point here. You wouldn't have to add a point at all. I'm just going to make it so that you can see it show up on your screen. Right? We see that this crosses the x-axis at -3, 0. Okay, so see how a point showed up there? And we also see that it crosses at 3, 0. So these 2 points are my x-intercepts, because remember, the x-axis is my horizontal line. So once I find those x-intercepts, we already know, we've talked about the fact that x-intercepts, we can just write down the x value. So it's 3 and it's -3, because this crosses the x-axis at 3 and -3. Okay, so once we look at the graph, we're just looking to see where it crosses the x-axis. So let's look at another one here. So let's then say, I'm going to get rid of my graph too. Let's say I want to solve, come on, clear off. I want to solve y equals x squared plus 7x plus 12. So I can now go to my graphing tool and type in y equals x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, and so my graph is created for me. And now I'm just looking to see where does this cross the x-axis. So I see that this is crossing the x-axis right here at this point, which is -3, 0. And I see that it is crossing right here at -4, 0. And again, I'm just writing down the x values. So my solutions for this would be -4 and -3. I have two values, x can equal -4 and x can equal -3. Let's look at another one. Let's say I do y equals x squared plus 2. Okay, so again, I'm going to put in that equation. Y equals x squared plus 2. Okay, now this only touches the y-axis. This point right here is on the y-axis, not on the x. So this does not touch the x-axis anywhere. So if we don't ever touch the x-axis, we say that our answer is no real solutions. In that last video, right, we said that we could shortcut that as x. So as long as you have access to this graphing tool, you should be able to type it in and then just see what the graph looks like and identify where it crosses the x-axis.